Again, joined by regular Ander. Good evening, Ander.
How are we doing? Okay.
Sound, thank you. So, Ander, what we're going to do is jump straight in, fella, because there's a big fight happening at the weekend. You've got Canelo. So I thought we'd touch on Canelo first. So, give us your thoughts about him and the fight.
Well, first and foremost, I'm going to hold my hands up and give Plant a bit more due respect than I originally did. I thought Canelo had blow him out of there within 5-6 rounds. I've said on Twitter and I said on this show last week, I didn't think that Plant would make the second half of the fight. So much better than I thought he was, mate.
Yeah.
He worked very well to a game plan. Worked really well behind his jab. Kept Canelo at range for as long as he possibly could. But we're talking about the best of a generation here. He was going to get to him eventually, and that's exactly what happened. You could see it coming. Round after round. He was getting the odd dig, and eventually it got to the point where Plant wasn't able to keep him off. Interesting the way they were talking to each other mid-round, though. I thought that was a bit bizarre, and it was like they were congratulating each other as well. It's really weird. But so there's obviously a bit of respect there from both sides. Canelo, obviously, for how long that Plant lasted, and Plant's got he's got to respect Canelo and say, let's have it right. Everybody that goes in with him seems to. He just has a way, mate. He just a way, and when he whips those hooks into the body, he's got this way of blowing people's arms as well. I mean, look at what he did to
Callum Smith.
Callum Smith couldn't use that left arm after he'd done that. He's just got a way, mate. He's just got this way. He lands shots. He's got such a technique that he lands shots at the right angles, and sometimes people don't see him coming.
Yeah.
He's right up there. I mean, my question to you would be, does this make him an all-time great?
I'd have to say yes, because he's unified the division. So I'll say yes. Would you?
Put him up there with all the big names.
Yeah, to be frank.
Do you think he's the best Mexican ever?
That's a big call. Maybe not yet.
Yeah, he's got big boots to fill. Julio Cesar Chavez for me is the best ever.
For now.
Yeah.
But the thing I like,
if Canelo goes on, and all the talk is that he's moving up, and we've had conversations about this that we think he's not big enough to beat the biggest fighters in that division, the Beterbievs and Bivols. If he's able to take belts off them, even if he doesn't unify that division, if he's able to take, I know he's already won a belt a light heavyweight, but that was against a very aged Kovalev. But if he can do it against one of these guys in the prime, you have to say he's up there. For me though, there's always going to be that little shadow over him.
Yeah.
With the special beef. It's got to taint his legacy, mate.
One thing I don't buy, though, I don't buy this fact that he fought Mayweather when he was too young. Mayweather is just too good for him at that weight.
I hear what you're saying, but Canelo was young. It was very early in his career. It wasn't you watch that fight back now. Canelo's not the fighter he is now.
But is it a different weight class now?
No, I know that. But even so, he didn't have the ring craft he's got now.
I don't think any form of Canelo beats Mayweather at that weight.
At that time when Mayweather was in his prime, you might be right. Yeah, you might be right. It's impossible to say, isn't it? Because
It's a little bit tailor-made for him, though, Andy, isn't it?
Yeah, that come forward style, Mayweather picked him off, especially the Mayweather that was fighting at the style he was fighting at the time.
Yeah, Money Mayweather, not Pretty Boy. Yeah. So
yeah, I suppose I'll have to agree with you there.
the thing I like about Canelo and Eddie Reynoso's relationship is Canelo really does trust Eddie Reynoso, don't he? He don't get involved in the tactics. He leaves it all to Reynoso. He just gets in the ring, does as he's told, and fights the fight.
Yeah.
You know, no interference like other boxers where they start thinking they can train themselves. I think Canelo's a very humble guy. I think he trusts Reynoso clearly, don't he? So they've got clear definition on what their roles are, and I do think 175 is a stretch for Canelo when it gets to the elite part of that division. But obviously, we won't name names, Andy, but obviously we're aware of other fighters that you may not consider possibly stepping up to 168 to fight him, who you wouldn't dream fighting him. So it's very interesting.
The rumours that we've heard, mate.
Very reliable source.
Yeah, very reliable source, but we're not going to say because it's a reliable source to us, but it will come out in the not very distant future, and it's going to surprise a lot of people if it happens.
Yeah. So again, where does Canelo go next then, Andy? If you had to put your last pound on it.
So, well, I think the good money is on that he goes up. I don't think that's the right move for him. There's no point in him staying at super middleweight. He's done everything he needs to do. The problem is what's going to end up happening if he stays at super middle. What will end up happening is people are just going to come for a payday.
Yeah.
No one's going to beat him at that weight, mate.
Will he get back down to middle?
Well, I think he can. Because he'd have to take, for me though, he'd have to take a while out the ring to train a certain way to lose that mass. The thing is, Canelo don't do that, does he? He likes to fight constantly. But for me, for him to come back down to middleweight and be as strong at middleweight, he's got to train right and eat right to get down to the weight without losing too much of his strength.
I actually think coming down is more dangerous than going up.
I don't, because I don't think there's anyone at middleweight that can challenge him, mate. I don't think there's anyone at middleweight that's anywhere near his level.
I'm not sure it'll be quite the same fighter though.
Maybe he won't be quite as devastating, but even if he's not quite as devastating, he's still got all the ring craft. He would still stop fighters at that weight, mate. No doubt about it. We're only talking. What is it? £7?
Yeah.
Right. So it's not a massive amount, mate.
But going up is only 168 to 175, isn't it? And look at the difference that can cause.
Yeah, but what you got to think about is going up. When he goes up, that's going to be his maximum weight. He's going to be fighting people that are boiling down to that weight, and on fight night they're going to be probably a stone heavier. Whereas at middleweight, he's only got to make the £7 less. Come fight night, he'll be back to super middleweight again.
Yeah, but my argument would be what that's going to take out of him boiling down to that weight.
That's why I've said he's got to take his time. He can do it, mate. No doubt about that. And if he does,
it's an interesting conundrum because
yeah, it is. My feeling is he probably thinks that he's got better paydays and it's more glamorous to go up and fight the bigger fighters because it's more of a challenge to him. I don't think he sees any danger from any of the middleweights, and it probably won't be a challenge for him. He might not even get up for the fights. I know that sounds silly because he'll be fighting for world titles, and he could probably if the fighters could get made, he could probably unify that division as well.
What's a bigger payday light heavy than Triple G?
Beterbiev?
Not for me.
It's a huge fight, that is, mate.
It's not bigger than Triple G, though. Not from a worldwide perspective.
Do you think he's... I suppose... I forgot about Triple G, I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
Do you think he's scared to take that third Triple G fight?
I do. I think. Well, no, that's unfair because he's not scared of anybody. But I think
Weary.
out of anyone he's fought under, Triple G's the closest one to standing in that middle of that ring and trading with him.
Well, he did, didn't he? And he took Canelo's best.
You could argue he won one of them fights, quite, if you want to.
The first one, mate. He won the first one.
So,
I think there was a very good clip. There's a very good clip on YouTube where he goes back to the corner after one of the rounds in the first fight, and Eddie Reynoso says to him, "Do not try and knock this guy out. He's too strong."
yeah.
And there was a certain point in that fight, I don't know if you remember, where he backs off.
Yeah.
And he's not as aggressive. And I think it probably comes after that information from Reynoso. Because he was throwing bombs and they were bouncing off Golovkin. I think you're right. If anybody's going to beat him, it's Golovkin at his best. But is Golovkin at his best anymore? Is he past that now?
We don't know, do we? To be honest.
No.
But it'd be interesting to see whether he goes north or south in terms of weight.
He's definitely going to do one of them, mate, because he can't stay at super middleweight. It's pointless. It's pointless.
Yeah.
He might as well retire. I know it sounds like a dramatic thing. He might as well retire. Because he could sit and defend them belts all day long against because there's no real standout other than him. Now
let's have it right, Andy. One of his mandatories, Zach Parker from Derby, and no disrespect to Zach Parker because obviously he clearly earned his way up the rankings. But why is Canelo, with all due respect, going to jump in with Zach Parker?
Well, that's where Frank Warren needs to do his job. Frank Warren needs to put a lot of money on the table, don't he? He needs to back Zach Parker, don't he?
Yeah, I just can't see it.
Right, let's get this right. Is Zach Parker's earned that spot? Whether you think he's capable of or belongs in a ring with Canelo or not is beside the point. He's earned his spot.
When he fought Yildirim, didn't he?
He's earned his spot, mate. He's earned that mandatory spot. So, one or two things will happen. Either he fights Canelo, which would be his biggest payday, and regardless of what happens in that fight, Zach Parker doesn't lose any standing.
No.
Or Canelo moves up and vacates, and then Zach Parker gets to fight for the world title against whoever the number two in the rankings is.
Yeah.
And then that opens that division right up, don't it?
I still
Because
think
like I've just said, there's no one, in my opinion, stands out waiting to take Canelo's throne.
I was about to say, there's a degree that is very looked at the era of super middleweights.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd have been I tell you what, him and Andre Ward would have been a great fight.
Ward beats him.
Does it?
Yeah. Don't you agree?
I don't know, mate. Ward was very, very, very good at what he did. Very good, and he made a lot of fighters look very average. You know me. I'm a massive Froch fan, and I won't hear anything against the guy. But he made Froch look average. and no other fighter has done that. There's been other fighters that have took Froch close, but no one made him look average, and Ward did. So if Canelo couldn't put it on him, it's a long night, isn't it? Because Ward has a way of making the fight boring. That's why he was never a superstar, because it was a boring fight. He liked to nullify other fighters' attributes. I think Canelo could probably get frustrated with him.
Yeah.
Tough fight, that, mate. Very close.
Well, Billy Joe set a bit of a blueprint into him by making Canelo miss. Ward would have done that, but he would have capitalised as well.
Yeah. Ward was just very, very good defensively. Very good. Very good and frustrated fighters to the point where he then took over fights. Billy Joe did a great. I don't care what anybody says. Billy Joe did a great job against Canelo in those early stages, those early rounds. He made a couple of mistakes that left Canelo landing that shot he landed. So yeah, other than Billy Joe, I mean, we've said about Callum Smith. We thought Callum Smith was going to give him a load of trouble. It didn't turn out that way for a lot of reasons. And I'll stand up for Callum Smith all day long, because I do believe if Canelo fights Callum Smith at
175,
it's a different fight, mate. Different fight altogether. Callum, I'm telling you now, Callum's going to be an animal at that weight.
He was dead at the weight when he won 6'8". He was dead.
He was, yeah. He was dead. He was dead. Well, he's done a lot of things. He was dead at the weight. He didn't have a full. He didn't have a full camp. A lot of things went off, as often does with background stuff with Canelo. Yeah, you can say they're all excuses, but at the end of the day, it is what it is.
I mean, you know that I'm a big Bivol fan, but Callum Smith could quite easily mop that division up.
I think so.
That
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. I mean, I don't know how he stayed at super middleweight. We've said this a number of times on the show. We've had Paul Smith on as well, and he said very similar that. I mean, I asked him how's Callum stayed at that weight for so long, and he says he made the weight well enough, but he couldn't then get back up for the fight.
Very humble though, Paul Smith. There's no excuses, was there?
None at all, mate. He gave Canelo all the credit he deserves.
Yeah.
But you can tell, mate. Callum's a different animal at light heavy. It's going to be the next year or two. He's going to be very, very interested in that division.
Yeah. So the Canelo show moves on. So moving on to the next one. Now I know this is one of your favourite fighters, Andy, so I bet you're going to be ecstatic about this next topic. So the self-proclaimed legend that is Kid Galahad versus I'll leave you to talk about Kiko. So obviously this is coming up Saturday. Bit of a bad taste as Nottingham lad's mouth, to be honest with you. Let's just say pulls it out for Lee Wood as well. So Andy, talk to us.
Right. Just to give a bit of background for people that don't understand, we're from Nottingham. We're Lee Wood fans because we're from Nottingham, but there's a little bit more for me, and the bad taste for me came after Kid Galahad won his world title. The first thing that came out of his mouth was to belittle Lee Wood's championship that he won the week before. Poor. Considering they've got history together, considering they spent such a long time in the same gym, it don't sit well with me that to do that to another world champion, to try and make your win or make it seem like your win's more important. Yeah, don't work for me. So he does that. He belittles Lee Wood, and then he goes and takes And I don't care what anyone says, Kiko Martinez might be a name, but he's over the hill. The guy's had 54 fights. He's 35 years old. He's had 54 fights, and a lot of them have been wars. Good to have you back, mate. Thanks a lot.
I was there in spirit.
Kiko Martinez has had 54 fights, and he's lost 10 of them. He's not even in the top 10 of the IBF rankings. So how is that fight? How does that fight make any sense? How have the public been fooled in thinking this is a headlining world title fight? It's an absolute disgrace, in my opinion.
And Andy, let me just jump in there as well. Another thing that's really getting on my nerves on Twitter and other places with these keyboard warriors who didn't come onto a channel and debate it. You've seen some of my comments earlier today, and a couple of them are trying to give it the big one. I invited them on the show. Up to now, I can't see them. Why is it that Zhu Kang was called a proper world champion? When Lee Wood wins a belt, all of a sudden he's a second-rate world champion.
Well, that's because, mate, that's very simple, isn't it? Kid Galahad wants to belittle what Lee Wood's done. So, like you say, when Zhu Kang was world champion, Josh Warrington wanted to fight him. He wanted to unify. But the IBF wouldn't have it because it was the regular belt. That's why Josh Warrington vacated, because he was disgusted at the decision that the IBF had made. He knew Zhu Kang was a great fighter and he wanted that fight. So Lee Wood goes and does a number on Zhu Kang in great fashion, rips the world title off of him, and then a week later, Kid Galahad rips him about it. You know, saying it's only a regular belt, blah 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 blah. And then Lee Wood fights is mandatory in what will be a great fight, because Conlan's a great fighter. Let's not have it any other way.
Yeah.
And Kid Galahad gets an easy touch.
Let's put it this way: Conlan's levels above Kid Galahad. Levels above Kiko Martinez.
Yeah. Right now, yeah. I absolutely agree, mate. Let's put another little bit of context into it, and I don't mean to disrespect anybody here, but 2 fights ago, Kiko Martinez lost to Zelfa Barrett. So, why is Zelfa Barrett not getting a world title shot? Not a big enough name? Let's have it right. That's all this is. This is just to put Kiko Martinez's name on Kid Galahad's record. He should be dealing with Kiko Martinez inside 5 or 6 rounds.
Kid Galahad must have thought he's had a right touch when they pulled his name out.
They've chose it, mate. There's no 2 ways about that. They've chose it. I'm a little bit surprised Eddie Earns agreed to it. But, and I've said this on Twitter, so I'll say it again, that's why there's another world title on this bill. Because this fight does not sell an arena.
Can Kid Galahad sell out an arena?
On his own?
No.
Not in my opinion, mate. I've seen no evidence of that in the past. And that's not me just being a bitter Nottingham lad either.
That's why he's normally the away fighter, i.e. Warrington.
I don't see it, mate. He don't seem to have a following. I mean, we've been stirring the pot just for a bit of fun on Twitter, you and me, the past few days. And there's been no real Galahad fans come back. It's been boxing fans trying to give perhaps a more balanced opinion than we give, to be fair.
And a couple of trolls thrown in there.
Yeah. Just trying to stir the pot themselves. But there's been no real, what I would call Galahad fans. None of them. No one's really come in to defend him. the way I expected them to. So that tells me there's not that. I mean, it'd be interesting to see whether that arena's sold out this weekend.
I think Eddie Hearn better get creative with the old lighting, and let's get some of them tears dimmed down.
Do you mean creating with the camera angles?
No comment.
I'd say Terry Harper's probably got more fans coming down to this fight than Kid Galahad has. But there you go.
I mean, Barrett is a great fighter. No two ways about it. He's a good fighter. Great might be a bit strong, but he just doesn't endear himself to the boxing public, does he? It wasn't very classy what he did. He just won, just won a world title, and he's talking about Lee Wood.
That was the first thing that came out of his mouth, mate. It's not classy at all. It's shocking, in fact. I mean, why? Like I just said, they spent a long time working out of the same gym. They've sparred hours and hours together. They know each other inside out.
I hope he's not getting some fake confidence from the Lee Wood fighter that was at the Ingle gym, because me and you both know that Lee Wood he'll face if he's got the bottle is a very different fighter.
Lee Wood is a very, very different fighter nowadays. Very different fighter. Yeah, he probably is. He probably thinks that Lee Wood's the same fighter from them days, and he's not at all. Very, very strange. It's as though he thinks the whole world's against him, Kid Galahad. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't like some of the tactics he uses in fights. Some of the dark arts he was using in that last fight against Dickens wasn't great. Standing on the toes, holding arms down, pushing arms down, and then throwing a hook. Just not classy, not classy in any way.
I'm surprised as well from an Ingle graduate.
Well, yeah, because that's not really their thing, is it? They've always been slick, counter-punching, classy fighters. He doesn't endear himself, mate, at all. I just hope he has the guts that are as big as his mouth, because if that fight can be made, but it won't get made unless Lee Wood is elevated to super champion. Because
I'd imagine, Andy, Lee Wood's got a few fights to have before he gets to Galahad, because Zukan's going to call his rematch eventually, isn't it?
Looks that way. I can imagine that'll be probably March time, maybe.
Well, I've told you my thoughts, and this is my thoughts. I've not been told this anywhere, or not from certain matchmakers that we're friendly with. I believe Zukan think he underperformed that night at the fight camp. So I think they've said, okay, we'll step aside, let Lee Wood fight Conlon. I think you'll find Zukan will have a turn-up fight somewhere to get the ring rust off him, and then fight Lee Wood again. So I am a big believer that when Lee Wood meets Zukan next time, wherever it might be, it's going to be a tougher fight. I do genuinely believe that. I am a believer that Zukan slightly underperformed that night. I'm not saying he'll beat Lee Wood, don't get me wrong, but I think he'll be a better version that turns up next time they fight.
I see your perspective there, but I don't believe it, because I don't think Lee will give him a chance to perform. He could have been at his very, very best, and he wouldn't have won that fight because Lee Wood took it away from him.
I just think a different Zukan will turn up next time. If you look at punch output, blah 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 blah, when he's active, I believe
that's yeah. But you gotta look at who he's fought when he's had that punch output as well.
Just my thoughts. I'm not saying he's going to beat him. I
hear you. I get what you're saying. And if we asked certain people that we know from his camp, they will say this probably the same thing as you. He underperformed. Yeah. So we'll see, won't we?
But what I'm saying is, timeline-wise, he's probably got the Conlon fight. I believe he beats Conlon. I believe he's a better professional fighter than Conlon, if that makes sense. Colin was a great amateur, but the pro game's different. I don't think Colin's got the power to keep Leewood off.
No. And you got to remember Leewood's got great ringcraft as well.
Yeah.
Colin's a good fighter. Colin's good. I don't want to take anything away, mate. Colin's a good fighter, but yeah, I believe Leewood's just a little bit above him, mate, and I think he wins that fight by stoppage.
So we're saying that's probably March, April next year. And then the Zucan fight, which I believe will be probably August.
Yeah.
And then you're probably looking at back end of the year for a Galahad fight. That's my prediction.
But that Galahad fight with Leewood will only happen because Galahad will hide behind the fact that it's a regular belt and he don't want to, and the IBF won't let him fight against a regular champion. So we need, and the sport, in fact, needs Santa Cruz to be stripped. He hasn't fought, he hasn't defended that super title for 2 years. No. How is that possible that somebody keeps hold of a belt they haven't defended for 2 years? That's really, really poor from the WBA. Really, really poor. They need to make a stand.
Old Galahad better make his money while he's got the belt, because I don't think he'll have that belt for long. I don't see him holding it for long. He's beatable. You know, he hasn't got power to knock people out. He likes to take the fights long and beat people on points. If you look through his record, another prediction for me, I can see a Josh Warrington winning that rematch against a Mexican and maybe jumping in with Galahad and beating him.
Well, he's beaten him once, hasn't he?
I mean, from a Leewood perspective, give us Warrington or Galahad. To be honest, both are great. I mean, the Warrington would be a war. That would be a war.
Yeah. So, and what an atmosphere that'd be, mate.
Yeah, I think the Lees boys might have something to say about that fight, to be honest with you. But what a great fight. So moving on from our friend Barry, let's see how he gets on Saturday.
Let's touch on the Terry Harper. Let's touch on the Terry Harper Alicia Broomgarder fight.
Yeah.
The Terry Harper's been out quite some time now with injury.
Yeah.
This is the first fight back, and to me, mate, for me, this is a real tough opener coming back off injury. This girl can whack, you know.
I do like her trainer, Steffi Ball. He's quite funny on Twitter, and he clearly knows his stuff. Props to Terry Harper, because she's had was it elbow injury? I think it was quite a bad one.
Yeah.
And she's fought away bad. She's competed against her, fair enough. But another fighter that's beatable, isn't she? You know.
Well, she was, in my opinion, awarded a draw, wasn't she?
Jonas.
Against Natasha Jonas, when a lot of people, including you and me, both think Natasha Jonas won that fight.
Yeah.
The rematch never happened for a number of reasons, unbeknown to us. And she's gone one way. Jonas has gone another way, and it is what it is. This is tough. This girl's 10-1 with 6 knockouts out of her 10 fights, which tells me she can punch. She lost. The only fight she lost was to a girl called Christina Linda 2, I think her name is.
The thing is with female boxing at the minute, Andy, a bit like Shannon Courtney, isn't it? You don't quite know what you're getting. Records, because there's not the depth.
No, well, this is why I'm going to give you a little bit of background here. So the girl that Alicia Broomgarden lost to, has only lost twice herself. One was to Katie Taylor, and one was to Delphine Pursoon.
Right. Well, 2 great fighters.
2 great fighters, exactly. So it tells you that the girl that this Alicia Broomgarden lost to is tough. Which in turn tells me this Alicia Broomgarden must be fairly tough. So this is not a walkover fight for Terry Harper at all. She needs to be on her A game. I think she'll come through it, but she needs to be on her A game because by all accounts, this girl can bang.
Mm.
Where do you see?
Sounds like a tough one to be.
Where do you see Terry Harper going from here, mate?
She's got to have the Jonas rematch because it's hanging over her. Clip. Simple. Hanging over
Is
her.
that happening now? Now Jonas has gone to Boxer and Sky. Is that going to happen? Could that possibly happen now?
I think I believe so. Because Ern talks about it doesn't matter what platform the fighter's going to fight on if it makes sense from a financial perspective. So I'd like to think so. I believe Harper's got to take that fight or it'll affect her legacy because people will always be whispering about that fight. So
I think I'm just playing devil's advocate there. I think it should happen as well, mate. I mean, there's been a lot made of the Eddie and Joe Gallagher spat regarding Jonas not fighting on that last bill. And loads being said about, from Eddie Earn saying, oh, well, we offered them this and they wouldn't take it. We offered them that, they wouldn't take it. And then you've got Joe Gallagher and Natasha Jonas, to be fair to her, coming out and saying that, well, that's not the case because we did this and we did that. So,
I mean,
there's obviously not great. There's obviously not great relationship going on there.
The truth is, though, Andy, like a very famous matchmaker has said to us many times, if the two fighters want to fight, everything else will come together. So, if Jonas and Harper say to their respective management and promoters, I just want to make the fight, then it should be no reason why it shouldn't happen.
I'm not convinced that happens in today's boxing, mate.
Well,
I hear what that famous matchmaker told us, and in eras gone by, absolutely, nothing would stop it if the two fighters wanted it.
Well, you have had big co-promotions, haven't you?
You have, but it don't always happen, does it?
But what I'm saying, it can happen because it has happened.
I mean, look at Joshua Fury as an example. There was so much going on there, and that's just a one-off example. But there's other. I mean, look at the welterweight division now. Why are they not? Why are them fights not happening?
But there is instances where it has come together. I know Mayweather Pacquiao was slightly late, but it still involved two massive co-promotions working together. So if the will's there and the money's there, and it makes sense, then any deal is possible, in my eyes.
Any deal's possible, mate, but it's not always as simple as that, is it? We'll see. We'll see. Natasha Jonas believes that she's made the right move. I've seen a couple of tweets and a couple of interviews where she feels that she's done the right thing for her career, and good on her. She believes she's doing the right thing, and that's right for her. So let's just hope that doing what she's done and going where she's gone means she isn't going to miss out on rematches with Harper or rematches with Taylor.
Andy, there must be a will to work on other promotions because obviously certain fighters are going to be going in the women's world boxing super series, and they often belong to other promotional companies.
Yeah.
So again, where it makes sense and the financial package is worth it, it should be able to happen.
I'd like to think so.
It's all about the pound note, isn't it?
Yeah.
So coming on to another one of your favourite fighters. Obviously, this got announced today, so Twitter blown up over it. Liam Williams versus Chris Eubank Jr. From memory, I think it's the 17th. Is it the 11th of December, Andy?
11th of December.
So, I'll let you go first.
Well, this all started Chris Eubank Jr. saying that Liam Williams wasn't on his radar because he wasn't at his level. And this was quite a while ago now. Liam Williams has obviously taken that really badly, and he's had a few interviews and made a few comments himself. He's not an happy bunny about it, and I don't blame him, because of the two fighters in more recent times, he's been the much more active, fighting the much better talent. He's been in a world title fight, for God's sake, and did really well for himself in that fight, by the way.
Yep.
He came out of that fight with a lot of respect from the Americans as well. We've spoken to a few people. We've had a few people on the channel that give Liam Williams a lot of respect for that fight against Andrade. In my opinion, Eubanks made a big mistake taking this fight. And Sky needs to be very careful, because this is going to derail their golden boy, because that's what they're seeing him as. They're seeing him as this next champion. I'm not seeing any improvement in Eubank. I've got to be honest. He's tried to step back from that aggressive, throwing 700 million punches around fighter, to being a bit more of a thinking, a bit more patient. But he's going to revert to type. When Liam Williams puts it on him, because he will put it on him, Eubank will revert to type. And he'll go back to fighting the way he fought before, which is throwing lots and lots and lots of shots and not having a B plan, because that's the way it's always been. He's come up against the best fighters and he's lost because he doesn't have a plan B. He gets frustrated, and he doesn't, in my opinion, have the power to hold fighters off. So Liam Williams, for me, will railroad him.
But Liam Williams isn't world class either, is that?
No, it's not world class, no. But of the two fighters, mate, he's the one that's made the massive improvement.
I think this is quite an even fight.
It's a good fight.
I'm struggling to call it, if I'm honest with you.
Oh, no, Liam Williams for me all day long, mate.
I'm not so sure. Because I think Liam Williams is limited as well. So I think it's a close fight. And I've not quite been reminded who I think is going to win yet.
I think since the two Liam Smith fights at light middleweight, and Liam Smith moved up to middleweight, he's a different fighter. He's not. I'm not saying he's world class. He's not an elite fighter, but he's a much improved fighter, mate. He's fighting at the right weight for him, and he's a very aggressive, won't be denied fighter. He'll beat Eubank. There's one thing you can say about Eubank is he's got a chin. So I don't see Liam Williams stopping him. I see the fight going to points, but I see Williams winning that points quite clearly.
Yeah, my only thoughts are, the more I think about it, I think Eubank's going to beat him. Yeah. I think Liam Williams is limited.
Go on then, explain to me what that thought process is.
I just think styles make fights, as we all know. I think Eubank, although Eubank's not a banger, his output of punches will probably, and his work rate, I can see it forcing Williams back. And I just think he'll outpoint Liam Williams. Liam Williams has got one way of fighting. And he proved that against Andrade, because he got one way of fighting. It's just my thoughts. I think
Eubank's got one way of fighting. He doesn't have a jab. He falls over his punches.
I think he'll beat Williams. I think
he's got poor footwork. He throws 1,000,001 shots, mate. No doubt about it. But when he gets deterred, which he has done when he's fought the bigger and better fighters.
But Williams isn't bigger or better.
Hey?
Williams isn't bigger or better, though. I think he's in around the same level as Eubank.
No, I think he's better than Eubank, mate.
I think this is another fight where Eubank can look good against him with his style. because I think Williams is a come forward fighter, and I think Eubank would just pick him off. I agree with Imran. So Imran's saying Liam Williams' style suits Eubank.
We'll see. We'll see. But I think you're both wrong, I'm afraid.
I think Liam Williams is in for a long night against Eubank.
And I think the opposite way.
I think Eubank will pick him off, and then stop him late. That's what I think. So it's quite interesting. Interesting fight, though.
It is, yeah. I agree. It is an interesting fight, absolutely.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. So last topic, Andy, is Jason Quigley versus Andrade. So I thought I'd throw that one in. So obviously, also Jack Gladman has said Eubank for me on points. Jack, if you want to jump on him, man, if you want to jump on, let us know. Be interested to hear your thoughts on Eubank versus Liam Williams. So Andy, just talking about Jason Quigley versus Andrade, what are your thoughts on that fight? Quigley's got a chance on him.
Yeah, of course he has. Of course he has. He'll be being overlooked as well. Bubu Andrade's going to overlook him, thinking it's going to be an easy fight, an easy night. Quigley's not an easy night for anybody. Yeah, of course, absolutely, he's got a chance. And I don't think that Andrade is as good as people are making him out to be either. He's definitely beatable. Be interesting to see what Imran thinks about this, because Andrade's his sort of fighter.
Well, Quigley's it's a shock to nothing for Quigley. No one expects him to go over there and do anything, to be honest. And he could come back in hero, because let's have it right, Ireland are looking for the next superstar, aren't they?
Yeah.
So he's got all to gain and nothing to lose. So, yeah.
Where's the fight being held? Do you know?
I believe it's New England
Right,
in America. So, yeah, I think he needs to go over there and just rough him up, because he won't outbox Andrade, you know. And Liam Williams had a bit of success in that fight, didn't he, when he was roughing Andrade up?
Yeah.
So if an average fighter like Williams, like we discussed, can have that measure of success, let's hope Quigley can go one better. You don't like it on him, does he? So, hi Jack.
You alright, guys?
Yeah, let's hope the audio's a bit better this week, mate.
Sorry?
Let's hope the audio's a little bit better this week, eh?
It should be. I was on my parents' Wi-Fi, so God knows what that was like.
Hi, Imran.
How's it going, guys? You alright?
Imran, that's a sharp haircut you got going on there, Imran. Looking dapper.
Yeah, I decided to cut all my hair off. It was irritating me.
Imran,
Yeah.
It's good to see you back, mate.
Yeah, good seeing you guys as well.
Good to see you healthy, pal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, talk to us. We'll start with. So, Imran, this is Jack, by the way. Jack, this is Imran, because you've not met.
How's it going, Jack?
Nice
You alright?
to meet you, mate.
Yeah, nice
So-
meeting you as well.
We'll come to you first, Imran. Me and you actually agree on the Eubank Junior fight from your comments.
Yeah.
Just give us a breakdown of how you think he's going to play out.
I think Liam Williams has a come forward style. I think Eubank struggles against boxers. He doesn't. Andy's right. He doesn't have good feet. He's a bit of a weird fighter. I saw him against Morrison. He lets the fight drift. I don't really get his mind process and get the way he fights at times. He's really frustrating to watch as well. Like his last fight, he was fighting that southpaw, and he just seems. He doesn't seem like it. Just seems disjointed. It doesn't seem right when he's fighting. He just looks a bit disjointed. So Williams has a good shot. I see it like a 55-45 type of fight where I slightly edge towards Eubank because I think stylistically, I think the way Williams come forward, it'll actually suit Eubank. Bit like Williams is better than Spike O'Sullivan, but he fights a bit like that, where he comes forward, and I think Eubank's got a great chin. He's a bigger man as well, because Williams is a guy that's come from 154, so he's a lot bigger than Williams as well. And I think Eubank's got a very good chin, so I don't really see Williams being able to stop Eubank, and I just think he'll outwork Williams and probably get a win on points. But he may lose because, like I said, he fights. He's not that skilled, really, if we're honest. Like, even that guy that he was fighting, who was a lesser opponent, looked like it was giving him trouble. That southpaw that he was fighting in his last fight. So he just looks a bit. His performances look a bit disjointed. He doesn't fill me with any confidence. Like, stylistically, the fight favors him, but his performances have been quite disjointed, quite poor. And Williams can fight. Williams can really fight. You know, we saw that against Andrade, and Andrade's a far better boxer than Eubank. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Williams pulls it off, but I slightly favor Eubank on points on that one.
Right. And what about you, Jack?
I favour Eubank on points. Just, I think I agree with what Imran was saying. He's not as good of a boxer as Andrade, but I think Williams' style struggles against that sort of fighter. The sort of fighter that can box in any way. I actually think Williams is a very good fighter, don't get me wrong, and I actually think he's a more entertaining fighter to watch than Eubank.
So, Jack, just to jump in there, what level do you put Williams at then? European, world?
He's world level, not world class, if that makes sense. So to me, he's a fringe world level, I suppose, would be the way to call it. Whereas I think Eubank is kind of on world level. He's just really unlucky in that.
Eubank's not close to world. Eubank's European level at best, Jack.
Nah, you look at the guys who he's lost to, right? Who's he lost to? Callum Smith, who are super. That was up at super middle.
Groves.
Billy Joe Saunders, who I would say was definitely world level.
Groves
Right,
with
maybe
one
wasn't at the time, but he went on to be world level easily. And then, is there anyone else?
Groves. That's it again. Groves with one arm.
All right, Groves with one arm. That was probably the only one that I would count against him. But again, that was at super middle. It's not at his conventional weight. It almost frustrated me when Eubank went up because he didn't have a great deal of power at middleweight. So going up to super middle, he was never going to stop anyone, particularly.
But
Yes,
he's not.
obviously.
Jack, he's not been in with anyone at middleweight apart from Billy Joe, and he got sorted out there. Close fight, don't get me wrong, but he got beat.
Yeah, but look how quickly Billy Joe, how comprehensively Billy Joe dealt with most people that you're saying at sort of domestic and European level, how comprehensively he dealt with them, and he didn't do that to Eubank. I'm not saying Eubank's the elite world level. He's not. Like, for me, Billy Joe, I genuinely gave Billy Joe a chance against Canelo, and then obviously I was wrong on that. Hold my hands up. I didn't. But I wouldn't say Eubank's got a chance against anyone like that. But I still think he's in that world level of guys. I actually would almost want to see the Andrade Eubank fight because I think that would be an entertaining fight. That's the level I'm talking about Eubank potentially getting to. I'm not saying he's there yet. That's the level I'd say.
Why has he not? Jack, why has he not been there already? He's getting on in years, isn't he? And why has he not operated at that level already?
And I'm gonna get a load of heat from this from anyone who watches this. His dad is just impossible to deal with, by the sounds of it, and that's from various things. By the sounds of it, he's made some very bad business decisions, which is the reason he's not ended up in with people. That's where his big fault is more than his ability. For me, is his business decisions and his decisions on who he fights. For me, didn't make sense.
The problem is part of the problem, Jack, is that he thinks he's better than he is. He prices himself out of fights. The Golovkin fight was signed,
Yeah,
and he
the
priced
Golovkin
himself out of the fight.
And Kell Brook
The
took it.
Golovkin fight.
He talks a great talk. He talks a great talk, Jack. He says he wants all these fights, and when it comes down to it, he don't take him because he thinks he's worth more money. Well, that tells me that he doesn't really want the fight. He don't really believe in himself. He don't back himself enough to want that fight. Because for me, if he really wanted it, the money side of things would be secondary, and the legacy and the world title would be the more important thing.
To me, I would see that, and obviously, we're doing the matchmaking stuff. I understand that, but I don't. As I say, with him, for me, it always comes down to bad business decisions. I agree with you. He prices himself out of fights, and that Golovkin fight doubly annoys me because I really, really liked Kell Brook. And at the time, I was like, "Oh, Brook, good on Brook for jumping in with him." In a way, that almost ended Brook's thing because at the time, I would have put Brook up there at 147 to challenge anybody. But then he went up to middleweight, and he could never come back down properly.
Let me ask you two a question before we move on to Brook versus Khan, because I know Imran will want to have a say on that fight. So, does he win a world title, Imran? Chris Eubank Jr.?
What middleweight?
And in his career.
At the minute, with the champion, I don't think.
Jack, do you think he wins a title in his career?
I'm just trying to think who's got all the belts at the moment. So I'm trying to think. So
Golovkin, Charlo,
top one.
Right.
Golovkin
Andre.
potentially no, because Golovkin even fading, I still think beats him. Andrade would be an interesting fight. That would be the route I would go if he wants a world title.
So, in my opinion, Jack, and Imran said it already, Chris Eubank doesn't bode well against movers.
Yeah, but Andrade is fight on the weight, and that's not like a trade secret. Everyone knows that. So if Andrade's tight on the weight, he will struggle towards the end of the fight. That's where I think Eubank may have a chance against someone like that, is because Andrade, and you even saw it in the Williams fight, towards the end of the fight, he faded. I mean, he was in utter control, but he still faded.
I hear what you're saying. I get your logic. The problem is, Andre will already be 7 or 8 rounds up by that point. So, what you're saying is Eubank's only chance of winning that fight is a knockout.
The other thing is, Andy, if you watch the Marcus Morrison fight, how much did Marcus Morrison make in that fight? Well, imagine what Andrade would do.
Yeah.
Jack, I think your screen's playing up again.
I might have to go because my Wi-Fi's just...
No worries. Jack, cheers for joining us, fella.
Thanks for coming on, mate.
So, Imran, we got 5 minutes on Kell Brook versus Amir Khan, because Brook's come out today saying that he's signed his side of the deal. So, couple of questions. Does this fight take place at last? Are we bothered? And who wins?
Does it happen? Probably, possibly. Do we care? Not really. Not really. As you know, I wanted this fight like ages ago, but right now, I don't really care. It doesn't really excite me in the sense that even, for example, you know who I'd be supporting if those two fight. But even if he was to win,
Kell Brook.
if he was supporting Kell Brook or Amir Khan, it doesn't excite me. Like, it doesn't excite me like it. So I don't really care. Even if he was to lose, I don't think it would have that much impact, to be honest, because he's not fought for 3 years almost. So, well, I don't really know in terms of who's gonna win. I know you can flip a coin, really, because I don't know what either of them left. I don't know whether Amir Khan.
You're right.
Maybe Amir Khan takes a jab, could get knocked out. Maybe Kell Brook takes one to the eye, he could fall to pieces. I don't know what either of them have left. Brook looked like he looked okay against Crawford, but Crawford hit him with a shot, like a hook jab, and he fell to. He
It was
almost
a nothing shot, wasn't it?
nothing shot, and he almost went through the rope. So
Kell Brook looked amazing. He was in great shape,
yeah.
but quite clearly he cannot take a shot anymore.
Exactly. So, and Kell Brook had a fairly good chin in his day.
Yeah.
Against Golovkin, he had a fairly good chin. So, I honestly, I couldn't say it's like a proper 50-50, and it's just like who falls apart first, really.
Imran, can this fight even sell an arena?
I think it does numbers on pay-per-view.
Does anybody, do people care enough to go out and buy a seat for this fight?
I don't know. Maybe if it happens in Bolton or something, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. People are not that interested. Like the reaction I've seen online, it's just like really bad. Like I'm talking. I don't know whether it's because it was so big and it could have gone down as one of the biggest British fights ever.
It would have.
Yeah, exactly. So, and now people are looking at it like, look at what it's got to. I just think people are really frustrated. Let's be honest. It's kind of one of those fights where both guys are looking for like a retirement check, really.
Yeah.
Going
Well,
anywhere.
Jack's hit the nail on the head. Jack was on a minute ago. He's put 5 years too late. He's hit the nail on the head. It's probably more than that. It's probably 10 years too late.
Yeah. Definitely.
I agree with you, Imran. This could have been one of the biggest fights in British boxing history.
Yeah.
And for a fight at their weight, that's something to say, isn't it?
Yeah. It would have.
That unless it's a heavyweight stroke, super middleweight maybe. We've had the Benny Eubanks in the past, and but this could have been huge.
Yeah, and I think they're both to blame, to be honest with you. I'm not going to level it either fighter. Ego's got in the way. Stupid conversation about who's the A side, who's the B side. And I feel for them because their legacy is always going to be tarnished by the fact that they didn't fight each other in the prime.
I don't think you can blame Brook as much. I think here's the thing. I think even as a guy that supported Khan throughout his career, I think it's fairly obvious to say that if he wanted to make it happen, he was the A side. He could have made it happen, to be honest. And Brook kind of conceded that he was the B side. He even said that he can have the lion's share of the purse. One thing I like about Amir Khan is, although he did have a big name and he's very wealthy, and I think he always had. I was speaking to my dad about this the other day as well. Like, I felt like he always had a little bit of inflated opinion about himself in terms of how big he was. Like, even when he went onto the table with Mayweather and Pacquiao, you can't really dictate with people like that. You can't really go to the table and say, "Oh, I'm a star as well," because let's be honest, that's why he didn't get those fights, because I feel like he probably dictated too much. And when you're on the table with guys like that, right? They control everything, irrespective of how big a star you think you are. They're the A side, and I think that's why.
What I'd say about that is, if I'm Kell Brook and I think that I can take Amir Khan out, I'd be happy to work off a 70-30 split, 80-20 split, with the view that my career is going to skyrocket.
Could have done, but I don't know why he didn't. Yeah, he could have taken 70-30. He probably would have got paid more money than he did against Golovkin. And let's be honest, he may even at that time may have been a slight favorite to beat him. So yeah.
What I'm saying is, like you said, that the paychecks that Brook was picking up at that time, even a 70-30 against Amir Khan in a sold-out stadium with pay-per-view rights, blah 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 blah, would have been a massive check.
You're 100%. You're right. Yeah, you're right. He would have got.
I think Imran's right though. I don't see how you can level any of this at Kell Brook.
Yeah.
Imran's right in that. Let's have it right. At the time, Amir Khan was fighting in America in massive fights.
Yeah.
He's probably a bigger star in America than he is in the UK.
Yeah.
And more respected in the US than in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why is that? If he would have had more respect though, if he would have come back and fought Brook.
Agreed. But he stayed over there knowing he'd got a really good following. He was getting fantastic fights with really good paydays. And he saw fighting Kell Brook at the time. He saw fighting Kell Brook as a step back. He saw coming back to the UK as a step back. Now, if you ask him in 10 years' time, when he's completely retired and he's got a bit of a pot belly, what's his biggest regret? I'm sure deep down he's going to turn around and say his biggest regret is not facing Kell Brook in his prime.
It's the way it's all turned out as well. When you think about it, the way the careers panned out. When you think about if he had fought Brook at that time and beaten him, right? Because you got to win, right? Which wouldn't have been easy because Brook was a really good welterweight at that point, right? Just look back at how great his legacy would look with a win like that on his resume now. So I just, like I said, I think it's affects his legacy massively, of course, especially in the UK. It was a big fight. It was a huge fight. Huge fight. It still pains me a little bit now thinking back at it because I just think about he's never been involved in a huge super fight in the UK.
No.
And for the name that he had, that just seems shocking. Like even all of his big fights, you have as a UK fighter, you have to have a big fight when you've got a name like that in the UK. Yeah. All UK fighters, if you look at the top UK fighters, Calzaghe, Hatton, Froch. Calzaghe, Hatton, Froch. They all had big fights in the UK.
They were all major stars. They were stars here in Imran before they even thought about going elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. But this is what I mean. Like all of these big names, Nazim Hamed, all of them had huge super fights here in the Nazim Hamed didn't really have the competition. So he didn't really have the competition, but he was an entertainer. He was an entertainer. I'm not a huge fan of Nazim Hamed. I think he's a good fighter, don't get me wrong, but I think it's a bit inflated a little bit. But anyway, like Calzaghe, Froch, all of these guys had big fights. Amir Khan had no. He didn't have any meaningful super fight here in the UK, and that was, to be honest, what's the closest we've had in the last 10 years? Froch Groves, and I think Khan Brook would have been bigger than Froch Groves.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So it's a.
Imran, let me bring Lil Penny in. Good morning, where you are, I believe, Lil Penny.
Yes, it is morning. Hi guys, how are you?
Yeah, how are you? What time is it where you are?
How about 9 o'clock?
Ah, good effort, good effort. So the only thing we've got about 5 minutes left, Lil Penny. The only thing to talk to you about is does Josh Parker beat Chisora? The answer is yes.
Yeah, I think Chisora's a bit long in the tooth now, don't you think?
Yeah, it's not really caught the imagination over here, if I'm honest with you. I think the first fight was bad enough, never mind putting a rematch on. I don't know what Imran thinks, Ananda.
I'm not in that fight. Is terrible, by the way. Like, we've got two guys that I think are just like gatekeep. Like Joseph Parker has been such a big disappointment. It's been unbelievable. Like that guy became champion, and I thought he's gonna go on to do big things, and he's just literally career's taken a nosedive. Every fight has been depressing, horrible to watch. Like the Joshua fight was terrible, and even his fight before Chisora, he fought Junior Farr, and he
that was awful.
He's been a big disappointment. I don't know what you guys.
In my opinion, mate, he was very lucky to have the title after he fought Hughie Fury, because I think he lost that fight.
Who did he fight after Hughie Fury? Oh, you mean you thought he lost to Hughie Fury?
Yeah.
I thought he lost to Hughie Fury, so I think Hughie Fury should have been the world champion that ended up fighting Joshua.
I'll tell you what, though, whoever's doing a management job on Derek Chisora recently are doing a great job, because that guy, however he's getting the paydays, I will never know.
Yeah, but you could say the same for Joseph Parker. He's been stinking the place out. He's been horrible to watch.
But he's winning.
Is he?
Winning against though.
You beat Chisora in that fight. You beat him.
You thought he beat him last fight?
Yeah, I told you that on the show. I don't know how many times I repeat myself, but yeah, he beat him, and he'll beat him again. He'll beat him
But
quickly
he
this
didn't,
time.
though, Carl. He didn't beat him.
He did.
The record books might say he did, but he didn't
He
beat him.
did. He did. Chisora was blowing out his horse from rounds. About
Doesn't
round
matter.
5.
That's how Chisora blows out of his arse from the second he starts throwing punches, but he still lasts the whole fight.
He didn't beat him that fight. Go and watch it back again.
I have
And,
done. If Joseph Parker was the fighter you say he is, he's improved like you say he is, he should have been dealing with Chisora easily. And he
He
didn't
did
do
enough. He did enough to win.
No, he didn't.
And Farr didn't beat Parker either. There's a very anti-Parker theme on this show.
No, but Far's not top. Is Farr even a top 25 heavyweight? He's struggling against Junior Farr. He's not even a top 25 heavyweight, Carl.
He lacked motivation.
Let's bring Little Penny back in.
He did beat Andy Ruiz though.
Did he?
Yeah, he did in New Zealand.
No, he got the decision, yeah, but did he win that
Oh,
fight?
come on. Has he never won a fight then? Is that what we're saying?
No, he beat Carlos Takam, yeah. I saw that fight. He beat him.
Here's the thing for me. When he was fighting in New Zealand, he was looking like he could be something special.
Yeah, I agree.
And then he comes over to the big boys in the UK and looks average at best.
I'm not saying he's elite, but I'm saying he beat Chisora. He's a better fighter than Del Boy, and he definitely didn't lose to Junior Farr. So I just think you're very harsh on him. And I think he's with Andy Lee now, so Andy Lee will get the most out of him in terms of what he's got ability-wise. I'm not saying he beats anyone who's elite, but...
So have you heard... So let's talk about Andy Lee for a second. Andy Lee was a great fighter. And he looks like he's going to be a decent trainer. Have you heard the comment that Andy Lee came out with?
No, you keep telling me about his comment, but you've not produced it.
So Andy Lee came out with a comment that when Joseph Parker beats Del Boy, he goes on and beats Usyk.
Wow.
No, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I won't put him at that level.
Usyk's got Usyk's on a super confident state at the moment.
He is.
He might knock out AJ in a rematch because he's felt his power now.
I think Joshua with the right game plan will beat Usyk in the rematch if he gets the right coach in his corner.
He's not got the confidence though, Joshua. He's not going to beat Usyk.
That's what he coached for, though, man, isn't it? Get the right coach.
What? So you don't think McCracken's the right coach? He could have, and in that corner, he can't beat Usyk.
I agree. I agree with Imran.
He wasn't listening to McCracken in that last fight.
What makes you think that he's been training with McCracken all his life, like for virtually all his boxing life? He's going to go to somebody else and he's going to listen to them instead.
Well, I'll give you an example. When Lewis moved to become a different fighter overnight.
But Lewis is... You can compare it. What are we comparing? We're comparing Lewis and Joshua now.
No, but what I'm saying is a different ethos in the corner. Was he listening to McCracken that night? Yes or no?
No, because he was
and
trying.
Hold on. Let me finish my point. And did he try and outbox Usyk, which is the wrong game plan? Yes or no?
Yeah.
So what's stopping the coach who basically tells him to go out and fight your fight, not Usyk's fight? Keep it range.
But how does he do that? That's what I'm saying.
Here's my side on it. Here's my side on it, guys. I don't think Joshua's got a prayer.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me finish, Cole. You've had your say. I don't think Joshua's got a prayer, and I'll tell you why. It doesn't matter what the game plan is. He's gun shy.
That's it.
He's scared to be the Joshua he was when he fought Dillian White. It all started unraveling when he fought Klitschko and got put on his butt. Because from that point on, he wasn't the aggressive fighter that got him to where he was. Because he was scared to take a shot. So and then when he gets buzzed, which will happen, because he hasn't got a chin. When he gets buzzed, he can't defend himself because he doesn't know how to. He can't ride a shot, and that's the end of the story.
You know,
But
man,
that's why he now fights the way he fights. That's why he tries to outbox people, because he doesn't want to get hit.
Go on, Penny.
you know, mate. I think that's a great point. I think that fight really took a lot out of him. Even though when he got knocked down by Klitschko, he got up and actually beat him. Right. So I think I'll give him credit for that, and I'll give AJ credit for taking on the best fights out there. Like, he's not cherry picking like Mayweather or like Tank Davis. He takes on the best fights. So I give him credit for that too. But I think that fight with Klitschko, I think that made him old. Old as in boxing terms, old. You know what I mean?
See, yeah, you're right. You're right, Little Penny. I agree. And so he goes on from that fight. And who does he fight next? Joseph Parker.
Did he fight Takam or Parker?
I think it was Parker.
It was Parker, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So he goes to Parker, and what does he do in that fight?
Gun shy.
Jab and move.
Gun shy. And then he goes on and fights Andy Ruiz, and what happens?
Destroyed.
And then what does he do in the rematch in the Andy Ruiz fight?
Gun shy.
And what's he been since?
The same.
Yeah.
I'll give you my prediction. And he can't outbox Usyk, so there's no point doing that gun-shy jab and move. I think he'll put it on him early doors, and it's all or nothing. He either plays a big man in the fight, leaning on him, keeping him at reach and 1-2 in him with the jab and the up like he used to, or it's good night Vienna, because if you let Usyk do what he did in the first fight, you may as well not turn up.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's no point saying he might be gun shy, but he's going to have to go out on his shield, isn't he? Because that's the only way he can win.
So I agree with you. That is the way he has to win the fight. I don't think he mentally can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's
I think
he gets the right camp and the right training, the right coach around him. He can.
How long we got till the rematch? March,
you reckon?
So we're talking. He's probably going to have 3 months. 3 months with a coach. Is that long enough to change his whole mindset?
No.
But remember, that AJ, he has been a brawler before, hasn't he? I know he changed it when he got dropped, but it is in there somewhere. It's just whether, like you said, he can get over the mental aspect and taking a shot. That's what we're saying, isn't it?
But
taking one to give one almost.
He's mentally fragile, and then he hasn't got a great chin. See, like that combination don't go too well. Like if you're mentally fragile and then you've got a weak chin as well, he's scared to throw punches. He's scared to get down dirty because he feels he doesn't want to be humiliated. He doesn't want to be humiliated like he was against Andy Ruiz. He felt that humiliation when he got knocked out against Ruiz, and he's never been the same since. Andy's right that against Klitschko, when he fought Klitschko, that was the start. The Andy Ruiz was the nail in the coffin. That was it. He realized.
I'm not an AJ. I mean, you lot know I'm not an AJ fan, and I need to wrap this up in a minute, guys. But I'm not an AJ fan, but I just think Usyk's performance has been overhyped because he fought a bang average AJ that night. And you might argue he made AJ look that bad and all that lot. But
here's a comment.
Don't tell me that AJ can't beat Usyk because he can. He can with the right game.
Here's a comment for you, Carl. Here's a comment for you. We've had a new guy come on the sidebar. Neil Simpson. Thanks for joining us, mate. At least AJ is taking the big fights. How can Fury be the best heavyweight in the world now for beating the same guy 3 times, and that guy has never beaten one genuine world-class fighter?
I'll tell you. Well, that's an Eddie Hearn quote. So Neil, I think you've seen that on another boxing channel. Hearn said that quite a few times. For me, Deontay Wilder is right up there, isn't he? I know Fury's beat him 3 times, but he's up there, yeah. But he ain't no journeyman, is he?
Yeah, he knocked them down 4 times. That makes him good.
You know, he ain't no journeyman.
I see. I agree with you. I'm going to play devil's advocate again here. I see where Neil was coming from here, because before Fury took him on in that first fight, we were all saying he's fought nobody.
Oh, he fought Ortiz though. Ortiz was a top
Ortiz
heavyweight.
was like 900 years older.
Yeah.
No. But before, when they first fought, right, he was like an avoided heavyweight, and he actually nearly won that fight too in the middle rounds. Remember? I don't know if you remember, but he rocked Wilder.
He did.
And
Ortiz, the only reason Ortiz didn't win that fight is because he blew up.
He did. He was knackered.
Yep. But
I mean-
I
Go on.
yeah, sorry, go.
No, go on. Go on. You go.
But I think we have to give a little bit of credit to Wilder, even though he was a sore loser at the end in that third fight. But because he's knocked down Fury at least 4 times, even though Fury has gone up. So I think Wilder is probably in the top 3 heavyweight at the moment, in my opinion.
Does Wilder beat Usyk?
No.
Does Wilder beat White? Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe.
Every day of the week.
But Dylan White can box a little bit, whereas Wilder can't. So that could.
Wilder would knock him out.
Sorry.
Wilder would knock him out.
That's
It's
if Dylan White goes toe to toe with him, but he may not. He may decide not to. He may like box him. You know what I mean?
Well, Dillian White's not good enough, technically. He'll get knocked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does Wilder beat Anthony Joshua?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so. Yeah. Now, yes, I do. But 2 years ago,
don't
no.
be silly.
Now,
I've just spent the last 20 minutes slagging Joshua off, and he destroys Wilder. Well,
Yeah.
right. Tyson Fury's just given everybody the blueprint to beat Wilder, and
But
that
they're
is
not all good enough to do it. But they're not all good enough to do it. There's only one Tyson Fury in there. Don't mean they're good enough. You can have a blueprint, but you've got to carry it out.
You've only got to put it on him though, Cole, because he can't fight on the back foot.
Yeah, but
So once you've got to go backwards, he can't fight.
White would not be able to push him back. No
Yeah,
way.
Andy,
Everyone he's fought, apart from Fury and Ortiz, were all scared. None of them put it on him. They were all waiting for that big right hand to come. Ortiz put it on him and nearly got him out of there. The only reason he didn't win that fight is because he blew up because he's 900 years old.
But
So
Andy,
Fury put it on him, and then what happened?
White's
Andy,
not
can I
good
put
enough
it
to beat
this
Wilder.
way? If Wilder can knock down Fury 4 times, and Fury is probably the greatest boxer, in terms of boxing skills in this generation, I'm quite sure that he can also knock down or knock out AJ. And AJ is not a better boxer than Fury. You know what I mean?
He'll just take one clean hit on the chin. That's all he'll take. And
Yeah. Yeah.
if
Correct.
got up because Fury's got great recovery skills and he's got a good chin. He's got a better chin than Joshua. If Wilder lands even a half a punch on Joshua's chin, Joshua will fall to pieces, and then Wilder would jump on him and literally destroy him, I reckon.
Wilder's got that one equaliser. I'm granted. He may even have the single biggest punch in heavyweight history. May have, but that's all he has. So if he doesn't land that shot, he gets, in my opinion, he gets beat by a lot of heavyweights.
You talk about Ortiz being 900. Povetkin knocked White out, and he's about 850.
Yeah, but Carl, that was one shot, mate. Look what he did in the
And
rematch.
that's what Wilder would do.
If he switches off.
Wilder's a lot fresher than Povetkin.
If he switches off. That's
And
the
he
thing.
will.
I still want to watch that fight though. That AJ Wilder in London. Oh man, that would be a super fight. Even if they come off losses, it would still sell out Wembley, right? Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, it's so Wembley out, that would.
I think Joshua Fury's lost its luster as well, though, Carl. I don't think it's what I don't, especially if
No.
Joshua that rematch against Usyk. I don't know whether people will still watch it. It'll still be massive, but I think it's kind of lost. I think AJ doesn't have that appeal anymore. Like I think people
I'll tell you
realize.
what, man. Tyson Fury would toy with Usyk. He'd absolutely toy with him.
Possibly, yeah,
I don't know about
possibly.
toy.
I like Tyson Fury. I really think he's a great fighter. I don't know about toy with him. Usyk is really special, but again, Fury's big. He's big. Like
He's
he's
just a
big.
small.
really-
He's just a smaller version of Fury, really. But Fury's got all the advantages. He's bigger. He's stronger. He's taller. He's longer.
I would,
That's why I
I
think he'll
would,
win.
I would say Usyk's a better boxer than Fury. But I think Fury's a lot more sloppier. Usyk's a lot more. Usyk's better in his movement. At times, Fury can be quite sloppy. And
Ring craft, though, man.
He
Ring
is,
craft.
Fury's very inconsistent as well. Like you don't get inconsistent Usyk. Usyk's on it every fight. Like you don't get Usyk coming in and struggling with Otto Wallis.
Hold on a minute. Again, we've got a little rose-tinted glasses on here, haven't we? Yes, he performed well against AJ, but let's look at the earlier fights. So don't talk to me about inconsistency.
No, but which fights are we talking about?
So his earlier ones in the heavyweight division, even Delboy, he was poor against Delboy in the first part of the fight.
Okay, but they were still.
Thank you.
When I'm saying Fury almost lost against Wallin, like he was so close to being stopped in that fight.
But he finds a way, don't he? He finds a way, don't he?
No, he does fine, but so does Usyk.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
Fury wouldn't let him off. Fury would never go into a fight against Usyk and try and outbox him.
No, I favor Fury. I'm saying I'm favor Fury, but I don't think it's like a walkover. Do you see what I mean? I don't think it's a walk as easy as what people think. Fury's a great fighter, and not like AJ. He knows how to use his size. He'll lean on him. He'll make it uncomfortable. So yeah, Fury. I would favor Fury in that fight, but it's not like one where I would put my house on it or anything. Like I'm not
Yeah.
1,000,000% sure.
Yeah, Usyk has to take a lot of risk there because to get into Fury, because Fury has got a long jab, and Usyk will have to take some risks, like a lot of risks, and I think that's where Fury will make him pay, but I don't think he'll toy him or anything. I agree with you, man.
I mean, it's not bad to say people are saying Fury couldn't bang only a couple of months ago.
He can, but again, like we said, we've only really seen it against Wilder. You know,
But we've only seen Usyk perform against AJ. If you want to use that scenario, he's
Yeah,
been
but
pissed poor in the other fights.
Yeah, true. AJ was the unified heavyweight champion of the world. He had 3 belts, and everybody was hyping him up, saying that he's this, that, and the other, and Usyk's too small. Remember, Usyk went into that fight as an underdog against Joshua, and he absolutely took him apart, right? Fury went into that fight against Wilder the 3rd time as a favorite, a big one to say the least. And Wilder doesn't have the skills that AJ has. Like AJ's a good boxer, and Usyk's a lot smaller. He's 6'3". Literally took him apart. Let's be honest, Carl. He literally almost knocked him out in the last round as well. He was.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is Fury wouldn't give him the same leverage, would he?
Oh no, he wouldn't. Fury's a lot smarter. He's a lot better boxer. He's a lot more confident. He doesn't have mental issues. He takes a shot better. You know, Fury isn't going to take a left hand from Usyk and then just back off and you know be afraid to jump on him. Fury's the type of guy where he got knocked down heavy against Cunningham and he jumped all over him. He thought, I need to jump over this guy. I need to take this fight by the scruff of the neck, and he absolutely took Cunningham apart. Fury's the best heavyweight, and he's a special guy. He's gonna go down as an all-time great, but he's still got to fight more fights and prove it. I hope he doesn't decide to retire or and say that I beat Wilder 3 times, so I'm in Lennox Lewis's class. If I believe Fury could go down like Lennox Lewis if he was to beat White, Joshua. No, if he Klitschko, White, Joshua, and Usyk, you can't honestly say that he doesn't deserve to be in that bracket.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I agree, man.
I'll tell you why I can, because none of them fighters you just mentioned would have lived in the 90s.
Yeah, I agree, but he can only beat what's there. He can't beat Lennox Lewis.
I get that. No, I get that. But and it's not Fury's fault that he's in this era. He's clearly better than all the other fighters in this era, clearly. But that doesn't mean he goes down as a great just because he's the best in this era. Because he wouldn't have.
Yeah, but Andy, if you put Fury in the 90s, I think he'll beat a lot of those guys. Like I think he'll beat Holyfield because it's just so long. He'll probably beat Big Daddy Bo because
Fury beats Holyfield, Andy.
Oh,
Fury,
come on.
He does. Yeah, he does.
I honestly, you guys are gonna hate this. I think he could have beaten Lewis. I
Oh.
think he could. I think he could.
I think it's a close fight, but I think Lewis.
yeah, I agree. Close fight.
Come on,
I
lads.
agree.
But it's not a foregone. Fury's special. Like I'll be honest with you, that guy's something else.
You shouldn't be able to move the way Fury moves.
Lewis was chinny as well, and he lost to a lot of B-grade fighters. Like he lost 2 or 3, right? He
He
avenged
lost
them.
2 fights and won both the rematches convincingly. Because
Yeah,
he
I
didn't train
agree,
for
I
those
agree.
2 fights.
He should have won those though.
He won the rematches because he didn't train for them for the first fights.
Yeah, but Fury's not going to do that though. He doesn't have those what ifs.
He
There's not
destroyed,
many-
he destroyed everybody. He destroyed everybody in his era.
There's not many on Lewis's resume that Fury won't beat though, Andy.
Yeah.
You can't. Well, the problem is, I think Fury's a good fighter, but you've only got who he's beat to say he's a great fighter. And look at the names that he's beat.
Yeah, but Andy, the people that Lewis fought, they were all-time greats. But dude, they were washed up. Or when he fought Vlad Klitschko, he was young. That's like a Mayweather Canelo type situation.
Hold on. Okay, then. So, who was washed up when Lewis beat him?
Mike Tyson was super washed up when.
Let me just stop you right there.
Yep.
Lewis was the #1 contender for Mike Tyson's WBC World Heavyweight title. Tyson refused to fight him and vacated the belt when Tyson was in his prime.
Yep.
So what does that tell you?
Yeah, but when they actually fought, in early
The only reason they fought was because Tyson needed the money.
Yeah, I know, but when they actually fought, when Lewis actually got to him, he was so washed up already. I mean, Tyson was already washed up, like by the
Of course he was, but so was Lewis. Lewis was done. Lewis wasn't anywhere near his prime when he fought Tyson. But the point I'm making is, Tyson didn't want to fight Lewis when Tyson was in his prime. He vacated the belt.
Yeah, so did Bo as well.
Exactly. So the two people that were held as probably the other 2 good fighters in that era didn't want to fight him in the prime. They both vacated the belts instead of fighting Lewis because they were scared. Because Lewis was way better than him.
Andy, the other one was Holyfield, and Holyfield was also washed up when they got.
Oh, come on. Holyfield wasn't washed up when he fought Lewis.
Imran, what do you think?
What about Holyfield and Lewis?
Yeah. Whether he
Thing
was
is, I don't
washed up on it.
Discredit Lewis because Lewis was a very, very good fighter. And
Yeah,
I think he's the best British fighter of all time. So, yeah, Tyson was definitely washed up. Holyfield, I think he beat him twice. Really, the first fight wasn't a draw. Lewis deserved that decision. But Andy, I still think that Fury would have. I think he could have given Lewis a run for his money. He's tall. The only thing is with Fury though, Lennox Lewis had a very, very sharp right hand, and Fury at times can be very sloppy. And Lewis ain't no Wilder, right? If Lewis had hurt Fury, he was in big, big trouble because Lewis had a predatory finishing instinct. He could destroy it.
Imran, who's strong? Who's got a stronger right hand, Wilder or Lennox Lewis? Like a thudding right hand would knock you out.
No. Wilder may be one punch, but it's not about that. Lewis had a great jab. He had great movement. He had great boxing IQ. It's not even close. Like Lennox Lewis would have destroyed Wilder. Like he would have absolutely. Like Lennox Lewis would have destroyed Wilder. It wouldn't have been, because remember, Lennox Lewis was a bigger puncher than Tyson Fury.
Now, what I'm getting at is, I think if, and it's a big if Lennox Lewis lands the right hand on Fury, I think Fury can get up.
But the thing is though, Little Penny, is that Lennox Lewis has hell of a lot more to his game than one right hand.
Yeah, I agree.
He's one of the best natural boxers in the heavyweights have ever seen. And you can't compare him to Deontay Wilder because Deontay Wilder's got one shot, a right hand. He
I
doesn't.
was just comparing, and they was just comparing their power. That's all.
You know what? Actually, I'm gonna actually backtrack because you know what? I saw Lennox Lewis against David Tua, and David Tua was a monster. Like when I mean David Tua was a great fighter, right? That guy would have been a problem for a lot of the heavyweights, and Lennox Lewis absolutely toyed with him. Like I'm saying, took him to school. He literally jabbed basically. When you look at Joshua's performance against Ruiz, it wasn't convincing, the rematch. Go and watch the Lennox Lewis-David Tua fight and look at the way what he did to David Tua and compare the performances and see how convincing Lennox Lewis did what he did on the back foot compared to Ruiz. Lewis was a great fight. But again,
I agree. I think Lewis, to me, I have Lennox Lewis as number 6 all-time heavyweight fighter in the world. But I just think that if Fury fought Lewis in their prime, say I think maybe mid-1990s, and Tyson Fury now, I think that will be a close fight. I don't think Lennox washes him.
what do you think, Andy? If Fury does go on to beat Usyk, Joshua, Dillian White, right, and he's already beaten Klitschko and Wilder, would you say that resume is better than Lewis's resume?
No.
Bearing in mind, like some of those guys are in, like all of those guys are in their prime virtually.
No.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
No. Because as I've just said, I don't think anybody that Fury can beat in this era would have lived in the 90s against any of the fighters.
Yeah.
That's my honest opinion. Is the Bows, the Holyfields, the Ruddocks, the Tuas, the Tysons, anybody that Lewis beat, or anybody that didn't want to fight Lewis, I don't think anybody from this era, apart from Tyson, Tyson, I don't think any of them could have lived in that 90s era. So it doesn't matter how many people Fury beats in this era. He can't be compared to Lennox Lewis. He can't be compared to Lennox Lewis.
Andy, I think AJ beats Frank Bruno though.
So I think 90% of fighters beat Frank Bruno, mate.
Frank Bruno was like a 2-time WBC champion in that era that you're talking about.
Yeah, but
right?
what did Lewis do to him?
Yeah,
but man, he was washed up by then, dude. Bruno was in his prime in the late 80s, early 90s. Didn't he fight Bruno in the mid-90s?
He fought Bruno for the European, was it? Or was it the British title?
Yeah.
I think it was the European.
Yeah.
So it was very early on in Lewis's career.
Yeah, and Tyson beat Bruno twice for his belt.
That was before Lewis. That was before Lewis even became Lewis. That was Lewis not long out of amateurs that he did what he did to Bruno. But what Bruno beat a washed up Oliver McCall to win the world heavyweight title. When he fought anybody else at world level, he got beat.
But that's not a foregone conclusion, though, that Joshua would have beaten Bruno. Bruno could bang. He had Tyson wobbled. Mike Tyson wobbled.
Bruno. The problem with Bruno was he gassed late on. And that's why he lost some of the fights he lost. The Witherspoon fight, and who else did he lose against late on? Bone Crusher Smith. Yeah. Those two fights, he was winning those fights, but he gassed at the very end of the fights. There's a lot of comparisons with Bruno and Joshua.
Yeah, they're built. They're chiseled.
Yeah.
But I think Joshua is a better boxer than Bruno. Don't you think?
Bruno was probably. I mean, I've just slated him, but he was underrated for his boxing ability. He was underrated. And for the first 6 or 7 rounds of any fight, Bruno was in with a chance of beating anybody. I mean, he troubled Tyson in that first fight.
Yeah.
He had him rocked at one point. And then Tyson's strength overtook Bruno. And then the second fight, Bruno, I think, had lost before he even went in the ring. But I don't know. I think Little Penny, I think you're being a bit harsh. In fact, I think you're being very harsh on Lennox Lewis.
Now Andy, I have him number 6 in my all-time heavyweight list. That's pretty high, considering the company that he's in, like with Joe Louis and Muhammad Ali and like Jack Johnson and Gene Tunney. I mean, damn, like, you know what I mean? Like, number 6 is pretty good. Well, Carl, I think Andy, I think Carl wants you to wrap it up.
I know, I can see. All right, lads, let's draw it to a close. This can rumble on, so let's bring it back up again next time.
Yes.
We might get some other opinions from elsewhere, but yeah, it could rumble on forever. We're all going to have difference of opinions. I get where you're coming from, guys. You know what? It's been great having you both on tonight. Thank you to Neil Simpson in the comments bar as well. Please, guys, come on a bit earlier next time. We start at 9 o'clock.
Andy, can I just give you a bit of with your videos, right? Because I watch them all the time. You know, when you guys review a card, especially in England, can you review the main event first rather than like the crappy fights at the start? Because
hold on a minute, Little Penny. What's it? You giving us some editing tips?
Well, because the thing is, when you guys review something and you review, and it's the start, because that's when people are interested in.
Andy's fault, that is.
Event first, and then go in ascending order rather than descending order. Because I don't want to
have you heard this, Imran? What's going off here? Have you heard Little Penny? Giving us grief. Could we save the main event till last when we're reviewing cards?
No, he wants the main event first.
That's what I mean.
The main event first.
I'm
Yeah.
waiting
That way,
for your part 2 of the Paul Smith interview. You've got, you know, the part 2 for the Paul Smith interview. I'm waiting for it. I watched the first one. I enjoyed it. I'm waiting for part 2. You put a snippet up yesterday about part 2, right?
No.
Oh, I thought there was a part 2 Paul Smith interview coming up.
That's already on the channel, fella.
Yeah, we've had Paul Smith on twice, mate.
Oh, you've already put. I've only the first one.
Yeah, you've not looked hard enough then, have you, Imran? Have a look, fella. It's on there.
Back to what Little Penny was just saying, though. Just to close off, the reason we do it the way we do it, Little Penny, is because that's the order that the fights come in on the night of the card.
yeah. Now, because I think, like with the audiences, they'd prefer to hear first, like someone that they know, and then they'll stay in, obviously, and then they'll probably.
Yeah,
tune
I
out.
think this is the part where I say, Little Penny, we'll take your views on board and give it some consideration, okay?
Yeah. Because sometimes, you know, when I listen to your reviews and you're talking about people that I don't know, I just tune off because I don't know them. Like,
I get your point, mate. I see what you're saying.
I fast forward it to the people that I do know. Like, you know what I mean? That's what I want to listen to because I don't know these other people. Like, you know what I mean?
No wonder our click rate is shit.
You know what, mate? We try and do the full card though because we try and give a little bit of respect to the up and coming fighters that have perhaps got, you know, only maybe 5-0 records or whatever.
Yes, no, I agree with that. I agree. And I like that too. I like that as well.
The next review we do, Little Penny, we'll do it in your honour. We'll do it the other way around. How about that? Can't say no fear in that.
And also put it in your video. Sometimes when you guys on Thursdays, when you guys say, "Oh, we're going to be on Thursday," and I look for them on Friday here, it doesn't show up on your YouTube channel. Like when I go to Last Bell Boxing, when I like with Imran, when I click on his video YouTube channel every day, all of his videos are there. Whereas with you guys, your videos sometimes they're not there. It only comes up to
I don't know why that is.
No, they are, mate. They just sometimes they're not always in order.
Oh, right. Okay.
So you might have to go through some of the previous videos to find this week's. That's all.
Oh, okay.
I'll have a look at that little fella.
But how come Imran's one is not like that? His is always
I think
on.
might schedule it. That's why I think what you guys might do is you might schedule, because obviously when you do a live stream, you might schedule it for the next day. Do you do it for like 3-4 o'clock so it comes more UK?
Yeah,
time?
yeah.
Yeah. I think yeah. That's why it is, because they'll schedule it so then it makes it for the view. So remember, most of their viewers are going to be from the UK, right? Obviously, it's got to be if this now has gone on till 11 o'clock, right? No one's going to watch it at 11 o'clock because people are going to sleep. But 2-3 o'clock, if it's scheduled, everyone can see it. They've got the whole day to watch the video.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So that'll work out what time in your, and you know, because for you it's morning, but for us it's cracking on to 11 p.m. little fella.
Yeah. Because I watch all of you guys' videos, especially Imran's. And then when I have time, then I watch you guys. Like I have
Imran does about 40 a day.
No, it's very good of you, mate. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for keeping watch on us. It's great.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries. Anytime. Where's your other fella? He should. I can't remember his name, but he's always on Imran's. What's
Ray.
his name, Imran? Yeah, Ray.
Yeah,
Where's Ray?
he's got a few things on his plate at the minute, so you know he's got a bit going off, little fella.
Okay. All right. Hey, Imran. I hope you're well, man. Because I know you had the virus. So good that you're recovering, man.
Better. Thanks for asking, guys. Yeah, I'm better now. It's just fully recovered.
Right, and enough of this Florence Nightingale talk. Bring it to a close, then.
Thanks, guys.
Well, it's great having you on, little Penny. Imran, it's fantastic to see you healthy, mate.
Cheers, guys.
No matter what Cole says. Thanks again. Like I say, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah.
It's great having the extra banter. It's great having the extra talk. I get a little bit heated, so I do apologise for that. But Neil, thanks for your comments in the sidebar. Come and join us next time, mate. Try and get on for 9 o'clock. That's when the show starts. We only normally do an hour, but because you guys came on a bit later, it seems to have plodded on to nearly 2. But once again, guys, every single Thursday we talk boxing, all sorts of different topics. So Thursday night, 9 p.m. Come and join us next week.